Hello, it's Lisa here with a love note for January 12th, 2021. So today the guides came in and they started talking about the hero's journey. So I'm going to ask you to get nerdy with me for a minute, all right? So for those of you who are familiar with the hero's journey, an author, like mythologist, philosopher by the name of Joseph Campbell created this theory about the hero's journey. And basically what the guides were telling me today is that this is exactly what we're in the midst of, not only as individuals, where we're being called to this, epic adventure and personal transformation, but that it's not just personal, it's actually planetary, and that our entire humankind and the earth herself is going through a hero's journey in a sense. Now, if any of you are familiar with Joseph Campbell, maybe you've seen the PBS documentary with Bill Moyers called The Myth, I think it was called the Power of Myth or something like that, about the hero's journey. Campbell is one who worked with George Lucas back in the day with the story structure around Star Wars. If you look at all of our major adventure, personal transformation, big win at the end movies like Rocky or all the Star Wars or like The Hobbit or I don't know, Indiana Jones type movies, all of these adventure movies at their core kind of follow this idea of the hero's journey. Often we're launched into something that feels like a totally different world, like 2020 and 2021, right? I mean, it feels totally different. We're like, what the hell is going on? We might be rejecting. I don't want to be in the middle of this nightmare. But ultimately, we're asked to keep trucking through. And through the process, we end up learning things about ourselves, about our nature, about the nature of the journey that we then have an opportunity to use to transform the world around us for the better. So think about Star Wars. I mean, the whole Star Wars thing was a transformational process, both an individual one for some of the characters, but then also ultimately a bigger transformational process from dark to light, for others. Some of us feel like we are stuck in a never-ending Empire Strikes Back, like it's never going to end. But the truth is, it is. We are being tested right now. We are going through the gauntlet. And the question is, the opportunity is how we choose to show up and deal with that. Everybody's facing it. Every single one of us in one way or another feels like we are being tested. I mean, whether it's global pandemic, pick your issue, politics, whatever, finances, there's so much stuff going on right now. We're all being tested. And how are we responding to those tests? That's the real question. That's where the growth and the transformation and the real adventure actually is how we choose to respond to those tests. The guides came in today and they said, look, the challenges are real. You're going through the gauntlet. You feel like you're being attacked from every side. They also said, and I thought this was interesting, they said some people did incarnate at this time specifically to perpetuate the contrast and to perpetuate the polarity. Some people are here to stir the shit. That's why they're here, because in stirring the shit, it's like all the muck rises to the top. We can become aware of it and decide what to do with it. The question is, are we going to throw more shit in the pond? Are we going to throw in more to be stirred? Or are we going to choose not to? We all have an opportunity to learn from and through what's going on right now. They talked about the butterfly and how even when a butterfly is coming out of a chrysalis, its little tiny hole, it has to squeeze really hard and really struggle to get through that hole. And that there's purpose in that. The purpose in that is to allow, the fluids to reach every part of the wing so the butterfly can actually fly. If it wasn't for the challenge and the difficulty, it wouldn't be able to actually do the things that butterflies do. So there's some, it's kind of like the whole birth canal analogy, or the turning a coal into a diamond through all that pressure, right? It's the same kind of concept. We as humans, though, get to choose how we deal with the pressure. Do we try to fight fire with fire? When we see pressure, do we try to respond in the same way as the pressure we're seeing or feeling, or do we rise above it? And that's one of the things that the guides came in and specifically urged today. You know, a remembrance of that quote that's often attributed to Einstein, that a problem is not solved at the same level of consciousness at which it was created. This is our opportunity to rise above, to look at all of the pot stirring that's going on, all of the challenges, all the gauntlet, and decide, do I want to add more fuel and flames to that fire? Or do I want to jump outside the boiling pot and figure out how to reduce all the disparity, discomfort, anger, fear, you know, all the crap, and maybe approach it from a different direction? That's ultimately our opportunity. You know, the guys were talking about a roller coaster. And I said, now, wait a minute. I get a little sassy with the guides sometimes. I'm like, I don't even like roller coasters. I choose, using my free will, I choose not to jump on a roller coaster. I don't like them. They said, well, you know, in this instance, you're on the roller coaster. You're in the middle of it. Your soul actually knew what it was choosing before it came in. You're on the roller coaster. Your choice now is, what are you going to do with the ride? Are you going to white knuckle it and scream and, you know, totally freak out in total sheer fear and panic that this car is going off the tracks? Or are you going to take breath? Decide to lean into faith instead of fear. Decide to maybe loosen up the grip a little bit. You can't control the outcome anyway. Breathe into it and maybe actually enjoy what you can of the ride. And trust that the ride is going to be over at some point. The scary part, the part that feels so uncomfortable, is not going to last forever. So we may not feel like we chose this roller coaster, but we can choose how we show up for the ride. It's not to say we necessarily have to like it. I'm not going to say I'd ever like a roller coaster ride. They're just not my thing, you know? But I might allow myself to actually see some fun, maybe not even fun, but see how I can bring as much ease and grace to the process of being on a roller coaster as I can. Basically, they said, are you going to crumble and crack, or are you going to grow stronger and better through this process? Are you giving in to fear, or are you going to lean more toward faith? They said, no, you don't like roller coasters, and this feels like one not of your choosing. But you get to decide. Do you scream and cry and white knuckle it all the way through out of fear? Or do you try to find some ways to laugh and be goofy and have faith that all will be well? They're urging people to adopt the tactics, to not to adopt the tactics of those pushing the polarity. Just don't play that game. Don't play into that game. To rise above it. Sure, to work toward justice and all the values that we care about, but from a different vibrational frequency. That's really where the opportunity to shift is. Where we can find gratitude and joy and be in a solution, that's going to be our better bet, rather than staying stuck in being pissed off and frustrated and fearful and just done. And a lot of us are just done already. Just bring me some normalcy. But the truth is, the normal that we're going to be stepping into is totally different from anything that we've known. And that's actually the opportunity. Now, in the hero's journey, we get tested. We get tested. The enemies, even people who might seem to be our allies, they talk about the threshold guardians. Are you sure? Are you really sure you want to go into this brave new world and this brave new, you know, way of being? And what are we striving for? What are we trying to bring back as a human species, right? The truth is, what we're striving toward is this higher level of consciousness that's rooted in the concepts of unconditional love and fueled more by grace. Unconditional love for everybody. And it seems to me, if there was anything worth riding a roller coaster for, if there was anything worth white knuckling it or finding joy in this crazy ride that we're calling 2020 and 2021, the hope and promise of unconditional love for everyone and a life fueled more by grace, yeah, that seems pretty damn worth the ride. Even if it's uncomfortable right now, because the short-term discomfort growing stronger through that, not letting it break us, but growing stronger through it, is going to lead to the opportunity for a longer term future that's built on something and fueled by something that's definitely prize in and of itself. So they did talk about the pot stirrers, that there are definitely people stirring the pot, bringing the crap to the surface. They said that some people do thrive in the drama and the stirring of the crap. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to be almost somewhat grateful that the crap's being stirred and brought to the surface, even though it's incredibly uncomfortable now. But at least in being aware of it, we can choose how to deal with it in a more effective, thoughtful, hopefully, love-based way. But they also said that the pot stirrers are also going to be called to hear and transmute their own shit. So the pot stirrers are also going to have to transmute and heal their own tactics, because if they don't, what comes next for them is going to be really, really, really uncomfortable, because the vibrational there will be no vibrational harmony. They will be not in resonance with where we're going in our future. We don't want to be like them. We don't want to be one of the ones that are not in vibrational resonance with the positive possibilities and positive outlook for the future. So just keep that in mind. They basically said you'll each be responsible for your own energy and your role in this next phase of human and earth development. And our hope is that it's possible without too much, human carnage. They did say, yes, sometimes the roller coaster does go off the tracks. And that may be what it seems like now. But trust that the cars carrying humanity forward are indeed still on the tracks and will remain there. The ride is just a bit wilder than you were expecting. So whether you're white knuckling it through this time, or whether you're trying to find some grace, to move through this time, know that it's totally up to you. And the donkey, apparently, he's got something to say. We get to choose how we're showing up during this wild time. This time has a purpose to help us heal that which is under the surface that needs to be healed, so that we can move into a future of greater light, of greater, higher levels of energy, higher consciousness, and ultimately more love. That's what we're moving toward. We have to drop the baggage to be able to get there. These wild times right now are helping us see the baggage so that we can deal with the baggage, so that we can move forward. And we get to decide kind of our attitude toward all of that. So with all of this in mind, just keep in mind, the roller coaster ride won't last forever. Things will get better. We get to choose how we show up for the ride. We are all on a hero's journey, not just for ourselves, but for the entire planet. If you haven't checked out Joseph Campbell, go do so. His work is just incredible and I love it. This time right now matters. It matters. And we are being tested, and we are stronger than the tests. So just remember that. Remember always that you are absolutely, completely loved, and that you're invited to pay that love forward. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow.